different countries have different tax laws, so with different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies and then you step up into different things.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relaks Radio, and I am super excited to be here because it is a beautiful Friday morning, but also because we have a lot to be talking about. All right, now you're tuned into Relaks Radio, and here we share our thoughts and we share our opinions with you, but also because we want you to share your thoughts and opinions with us. All right, and regardless of what we're talking about, you can always let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how you're feeling about what is currently going on all over the world. All right, because here at Relaks Radio we talk about everything and anything with regard to what goes on in the world. So don't forget to text me or call me on 078-52-473-473. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, because that will be absolutely amazing as well. Okay, so don't actually forget to do that. And also, before we head into our conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of this show. All right, all you need to do is just go like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and actually go subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and you're always updated about the very latest that happens, not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the world as well. Now, if you're someone who always wants to listen to the conversation, who wants to share the conversation with your friends, your family, whoever it is, then the best way for you to do that is actually by downloading an app, right? Because our app is available for free on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and updated about all of that. All right, so what better way is there for you to be updated about all of this? Say, it doesn't matter if you're working, it doesn't matter if you're going to the supermarket. If you want to listen to the conversation, we're always there for you to listen to it through our app. So don't forget to go download it either. And now let's actually head into the conversation, which is how the Foreign Secretary has actually been under pressure. But before we get into that conversation, I want to very quickly talk about something very important. Right now, this is something called booster jabs, and I don't know if you heard about it, but I'm pretty sure you have, because Health Secretary Sajid Javid was like, oh, you know what, you guys, we have some extra vaccines, so maybe we'll just give some booster shots to everyone. That was what he was saying. But however, recently, sometime recently, the Health Secretary Sajid Javid actually said, look, you know what, we can give booster jabs, and we're actually going to put a plan in place to give booster jabs to people by the beginning of September. All right, but then the question has arisen as to whether do all UK adults, does everyone need booster jabs, right? And this question is very critical. This question is very important because of the current, because of what is currently happening in the world. All right. And that is, there are so many countries in the world that actually don't have vaccines, or they haven't been able to get a hold of vaccines because some of these vaccines are very expensive. B, a lot of rich countries, and you know what I mean when I say rich countries, a lot of rich countries have actually, have actually taken most of the vaccine stocks that were there, and that has made it really hard for them to progress. All right. And thirdly, we know that a lot of these countries that are currently struggling are in fact countries that haven't had high rates of vaccination, like the United Kingdom. All right. And I don't know, why do you think that is? Because in my opinion, I just think it's because countries like the United Kingdom, countries like the United States, countries like Canada has just been hoarding up vaccines as if, there was no tomorrow if they didn't get vaccines, right? Especially given the fact that they've actually housed more vaccines than what is actually needed for the population, right? Which means that they can actually vaccinate the population multiple times over and still have a few doses left, right? So this has in fact been one of the things that has caused, that has received a lot of criticism as well. Now, according to Sir Andrew Pollard from the Oxford AstraZeneca group, the vaccine group, he's actually stated, look, unless you have immunosuppression or you have immunodeficiency, you don't really need a booster vaccine, right? Given the fact that the 2 doses of the vaccine is completely enough to protect you, and it's completely enough for you to have certain, it's completely enough for you to have a certain amount of immunity until the rest of the population, rest of the world is vaccinated. He's actually said, unless you have any of those issues, you don't really need that. Right. However, a health secretary was just like, no, I don't think so. Everyone needs it. So, they just went ahead, or they're waiting approval from JCVI to actually give the rest of these vaccines, the rest of these booster jabs to people all over the United Kingdom, right? However, like I said, one of the biggest problems is that, do all of these adults actually need these booster shots, right? But the truth is, it's actually unclear. There's no yes or there's no. And, it's somewhere in the middle. It's like a gray area because no one's really sure whether you need those booster shots as well, all right? But preliminary data has actually shown that people do experience a certain fall in protective antibody levels, weeks and months after they give their jabs, right? And this is particularly for the highly infectious Delta variant, which is what a lot of the world is currently experiencing right now. Here in the United Kingdom, we have it, and this was the Delta variant that was initially from India, right? So we have the Delta variant here in the United Kingdom. It's there in the United States as well. So the Delta variant is in fact the most prevalent variant right now, right? And the truth is, especially when it comes to getting infected from the Delta variant, these people actually have somewhat of a fall in their antibody levels, all right? And it's also a little bit unclear what level of antibodies or other tools in the immune system's armament actually confer protective immunity, right? So there is a lot of unknown, but the thing is, for the time being, the vaccines that we've all received should actually be enough, right? And we shouldn't, hold back people from getting other vaccines, all right? So make sure you stay tuned because we're going to head into a small break. And after that, we will be continuing this conversation about how the foreign secretary has been under pressure simply because of the fact that, he didn't really do his job properly.
Cycling in London is not child's play. How to be a better cyclist. Listen to my show, only on Relaks Radio. I'm Kevin. Join me every Thursday, 5 p.m. Look forward to seeing you.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relaks Radio, and I'm super excited to be here because we're having very interesting and even informative conversation with regard to the very latest that is happening here in the United Kingdom. All right, so don't be shy to share your thoughts, share your opinions with me because I would love to hear what you have to say with regard to everything that is happening in the world. So don't forget to let me know what your thoughts and opinions are with regard to everything that we're talking about as well. Okay, and before we actually head into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me or call me on 078-524-73473. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, but also while you're at it, don't forget to go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. All right, because that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and you're always updated about the very latest that happens all over the world. And don't forget to download our app and subscribe to our YouTube channel either, because when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can easily share our videos, share our thoughts and our opinions with your friends and family, especially if you want to prove a point. We know how that game is. So if you want to do that, you can do that. But also, if you go download the app, you can always listen into our conversations from wherever you are in the world. All right. So don't actually forget to do that. And now let's actually head back into our conversation, because we're going to be talking about how Dominic Raab is actually under pressure because of, let's just say, he made some terrible decisions and now he's under pressure for that. All right. Because that is exactly what it is. Now, we know this whole crisis in Afghanistan, right? Obviously, it's been all over the news. We know how that turned out, and we know how many people are suffering, right? Especially because the past few days, the Taliban actually let people fly out of airports. The Taliban actually let people, get out of airports. But right now, they're making it very hard, because if people don't have documentation, if people don't have identity, they're not letting them go past certain checkpoints. And that has made it very hard, because these are people who are trying to flee the country. And because there are so many people who are trying to flee the country, a lot of a lot of Taliban people, a lot of people in Taliban, these soldiers and whatnot, these militants, actually, they are, they're essentially saying that, if you don't want to be under our rule, it's not like we're going to let you flee either, right? So that is a situation in Taliban, in Afghanistan, and it's in fact, it's terrifying. Let's be honest, it's really, really scary. If you wanted to flee your country but you couldn't, and you knew that your rights were going to be taken away, you knew that you weren't going to have any rights and liberties, then that is in fact a very scary place to live in, right? And that's what's currently happening as well, because that's what the Taliban is doing. All right, now Dominic Raab has actually come under pressure because of a terrible decision he made. And the truth is, it wasn't just a terrible decision. It was just the fact that he wasn't doing his job right. You know what I mean? Because Dominic Raab actually refused to be contacted about some government business while he was on holiday. And what he did was he just handed over decisions to a junior minister in the days leading up to the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. All right. Imagine your parents give you like a big responsibility. They tell, hey, you know what? Look after their house while I'm gone. Take care of your siblings. But you're like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to be like super lazy and I'm just going to, spend my time on holidays. So, I'll just give it to my brother or my sister to take care of the house. And then what's going to happen is, because they're much younger than me and they don't really understand how certain things work, they're probably going to make a mess out of it. And when my parents come back home, they're going to scold me, right? And that's exactly the situation for Dominic Raab as well. That's exactly what he has done as well. He was essentially like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go on holiday. Hey, you just like take these calls and like manage these calls, because you know what? Maybe if something happens, you'll be in charge, not me. And then while he did that, that was in fact a crucial call that he didn't make, because he could have potentially saved a lot of people who worked in Afghanistan, but not really, because he was like, oh, you know what? I'm on holiday. Why should I take any calls? You know what I mean? So basically, that is what happened. And right now, the foreign secretary is facing mounting calls to quit. And honestly, I'm not even surprised, right? Because these calls are even from his own party. They're saying, look, you didn't do your job right now, please leave, because we have to deal with the consequences of your inaction, right? And that is what is happening, right? And this is after it was revealed that he delegated a crucial call with his Afghan counterpart, right? Now, to put it very simply, what happened was this, all right? He gave this job to the junior minister, and he just left the country to go on holiday, right? He went to Crete. That's where he was. And what happened was, because this junior minister wasn't the equivalent of him, he couldn't really contact the equivalent of, or rather, Dominic Raab's counterpart. He couldn't contact the foreign secretary of Afghanistan, right? And what happened was that call was in fact delayed by a day. So that day was a day that they could have spent. That day was a day they could have made use of to help all of these to help all of these British individuals that were living in Afghanistan. But of course, because he was like, oh, you know what, I'm on holiday, I don't really care. That's what happened. And that is why, that he's getting mounting calls to quit, because imagine you have to make a call that could potentially save someone's life. And you're like, no, because I'm on holiday, why should I? Right? And this isn't, I mean, if this was me, what I would have done was cut short my holiday and come back and help these people. But obviously that's not what happened. We had him go on holiday and, you know, enjoy himself while the rest of the world was suffering, right? And also it's just really insensitive how, while there were so many people suffering, he just went on holiday, right? And that's just really insensitive to me as well. All right. And Labour actually said that it was a catastrophic failure of judgment. And you know what? I actually agree with them. It is a catastrophic failure of judgment. And this whole time, you know, Raab was on holiday in Crete, and foreign office officials actually advised him to, you know, call his Afghan counterpart, but also to call other people who represented England, like the British ambassador in Pakistan, the British ambassador in Uzbekistan, to actually talk to them and see, how's the situation, to call them and ask, hey, you know what, are you guys okay? It's going to be a really tough time, but we're actually going to get through this together. And the truth is, you don't need to have an entire team of staff to do that. You just need to be a basic, you just need to have some common human decency. That's really what it is. All right. Now make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to head into a small break, and we will be back to talk to talk about all of this. So until then, make sure that you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow.